Welcome back, CSC103, to our 3D lesson using Tinkercad. This is exercise 7A, cube 3 holes. And here we are back in Tinkercad where we left off, and we made a cube and we put a hole through the x-axis. And now what we're going to do to keep up the excitement is we're going to make 2 more holes through this thing. And I'm going to use 2 more cylinders. So I'm going to go here and bring out my shapes again. And I'm just going to repeat the process. I'm going to drop a cylinder down and just let it go and put my shapes away. And I'll kind of scroll over here and make sure I can move this thing around, practice moving this stuff around. And here's my shape. It's saying it's 20 high, it's 20 across, it's 20 over. I'm going to change these. I'm going to make it 5 and 5 again. So I'll just make it 5 and I'll hit enter and I'll go here where it says 20 and I'll make it 5. So now I have that very kind of tall silo looking cylinder there. And I'm going to put it where it was, actually down the center, and then I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to put it at 0. So I'm going to go over where I see green and put 0. And I'm going to move over because I can't see my other green thing. So I'm going to do Control Shift and drag this thing over and click on here again. And it's saying here, I think that's the green thing there. It doesn't show green, but I'll just put 0. And just move it a little bit. Now, if you're ever not sure, just view from the top. Now, and also make sure it's orthographic. Now, I can see that's right on top. That looks pretty good. That looks aligned right on the top. I know I'm seeing a little blue edge there. That's just because it's selected. But if I click off it, I see that it's right through there, right where the hole is. It's at the same place where the hole is, and that's what I want. So I'm going to go back to home right now and zoom in. And go back to perspective and zoom in a little bit. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to view from this side, which would be the right. So I can go over here, I'll view from the front first, and then go to the right side. Now I know they all kind of look the same, and I'll zoom in a little bit. And I'll try to move down here. And it doesn't matter if I'm in perspective, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this thing. So I'll zoom in up a little bit more and bring it down a little bit. If you want to be straight on, you could do that too. That's fine. Actually, that's probably easier. And when I say straight on, I mean in orthographic view. So since it says switch to perspective, that means I'm in orthographic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this thing like a big pipe kind of. Think of a big pipe they're putting in a road and they're going to put it sideways. Now I'm going to use this rotate thing, not this thing, because this is the up and down thing. I'm not going to do that. So if you move it, you could do Control Z or Command Z if you moved it. And I'm going to use this rotate thing, this double handle, and I'm just going to start rotating. Now if you go out here, it goes in 1 degree increments. If you go down here, it kind of bumps around. So whatever's easier, and it might feel better to be out here. And I want to get to 90 degrees. And if you go inside, it'll lock to 90 degrees. And I want to just move it down. So I could just move this thing down and try to get it close to the middle. Now I could zoom in here and I see it doesn't look quite to the middle. It looks like it's a little bit to the top. That's because if I look at this one, it's hard to see which one is actually the size. But this one says 5.5. If I click here and I make that 5, it'll move that down. Now it looks like it's in the middle. So that's actually the coordinate that I'm seeing, and I can move around and see that a little bit better, I guess. Because if I move here, I could see that that's the 5 for the coordinate. This is the 5 as far as the size of that. So you can see it's going right through it right now. And then I'm just going to select the cylinder, and just like we did last time, give it a hole, meaning it's kind of a negative color right now in shape. And then, if you remember what we did, we had that selected, and that is selected. And then I'm going to hold Shift and click on the cube. So there's 2 shapes selected. And you remember what we did? We grouped them. We use this thing to group them. And that does like a subtract operation, and it pokes a hole right through the cube. And that's going through the y-axis. Now I have a hole going through the y-axis. Because, and I know that because if I go to home and I zoom in here, this is the front, and X is going across, that's Y. So that's where we put that thing right now. So if I go here, and I'll go back to perspective, now that's going through the Y. The top one is going through the Z, and we're going to do one more that's going to actually go through here. That's going to go through the X-axis. So that'll be the same thing that we just did, and that was pretty easy, so it should just be repetition. Just drag a cylinder out, It looks giant when I'm zoomed in. It looks like it's getting bigger each time, but it's not. So I'm going to go here and I'll leave the height. Actually, I'm not going to do anything there. I'll leave the height at 20. And I'll go over here where it's 20. That's the width. That's the X. And I'll make that 5 again. And I'll go over where this one is 20, and I'll make that 5. And now I have my -1. That's where it's actually going to be for the center. So we're going to put it where the first one was. So I'm going to go here and I'll make that 0. And that kind of lines it up that way. And then for this one, this will line up the X at 0. So it moves over down along the X-axis to 0. Because remember, this is the front. So this would be, if I put this at 0, it's going to center it here from where it is. So it's about 21 over. It has to move there. So I'll go here and I'll make this 0. And now it's right in the middle again, except this time I'm going to rotate it from the front so it goes along the X-axis. So I'm actually going to view from the front. I could click over here and zoom in a little bit, and I'll do Control, and I'll add my Shift key, and I'll just bump it down a little. And I'm just going to rotate it that way down to 90. And if you go in, it'll lock in at 90 if you go in further. And you can see, I think we have to change this one. This one, it looks like it's very high. Now you could just start to move it down and see what happens. You can see that 5 isn't changing, but that other number's changing. So that changed to 5.5, and you can see it looks a little up a little. So now when I click on here, I'll just make it 5. And now it's centered completely. I'll zoom in a little bit, and then I'll just do the same thing while it's still selected. While that cylinder's still selected, I'll make it a hole, and then I'll hold Shift. I'll click on the cube, and I'll just group them. And what I have here, if I hold my Control key, and I'll move around a little bit, I have a cube with 3 holes in it. And how about that? That's what we named our file, Cube3Holes. And here we have a cube with 3 holes in it. That's pretty amazing. So that's all we have to do here. And again, this is just a practice just to get you used to navigating, to putting on our ruler, lining things up, resizing them a little bit. There's loads of fun things we could do. This wasn't very fun, but hopefully it got you loosened up a little. It's like a little kind of warm up before the big game. A little practice here we're doing just to make our cube. So we just made a red cube in the middle with 3 holes, one going through the X-axis, one going through the Z-axis, and one going through the Y-axis. And that's all you have to do. I don't think they have a save button here. I think it just saves automatically as you're working. So it should be saved, and then all you have to do is go back to MyWarren. I mean, you could log out, but I'll go back to MyWarren. You don't have to do any of this. You don't have to send to, export, anything, as long as you join my classroom. So as long as you join your classroom, I'll see you in it, and I'll even check that you're in my classroom. So that'll be part of the assignment. I'll make sure you're in my classroom. So if you go to MyWarren, I'll go to coursework, if you didn't go there yet. This will be under Unit 6. So I'll go down to Unit 6. And you're going to click on 7A, Cube3Holes. And you might say, well, I thought I didn't have to do anything. All you have to do is just go in here and say 7A complete in classroom, and then just put your username. And mine was RMHOMA45. And you can change it. If it does something where your username isn't something you want, you can change it. And you just do something like that. Just say it's complete and you're in the classroom. Then I know when I go in the classroom, just in case your username is something I don't recognize, you can have it here. And I'll save that. Again, there's no link there. I'm just going to go in and look at it and see that you have a note. And then when I go in there, I can see that you're there. Now, I just want to point out to you that if you do want to change your profile or anything, if you go here, nothing happens. You know, normally you go here and something happens. You actually have to go back to your dashboard. You actually go back to here. It says Tinkercad dashboard. So you click here to go back to your dashboard, and it says then saving your work when you do that. So I guess you should go back there because that's saving your work. And here you could see kind of your finished thing, and I will see this when I go in there. So actually make sure you go back to your dashboard. And if you wanted to change anything with your account, now you could go here and go to profile, and whatever you need to change, you know, password, any of that. If you wanted to change your username where it says full name here, you could change that if you want, I guess, but you don't have to really change anything else. But that's your profile. So I guess make sure that you go back to your dashboard here to at least see this, because then if it's here, I'll know it's here. And then when I log in under my teacher account, I will see your file here, and I'll be able to look at it and go, wow, that's awesome, or wow, he really couldn't put holes in the middle of a cube or anything like that. But anyway, that's our first kind of practice project using 3D technology, using subtract operations, using a primitive shape like a cube and a primitive shape like a cylinder.